Hey everyone, welcome to another recording session of the Polite Society podcast. My name is Paul Lathrop. I'm the Deputy Director of New Media for the Second Amendment Foundation. And let's see if I've got this button programmed correctly. Almost. I'm missing one of my people and I've got my guest in early. So it's a good thing we're not doing the real thing right now. We don't have the recording going. But let me get Frank. I'm going to drop you off for just a second. I'm going to put my other staff member in here. And we're going to go from Frank to Robin. There we are. What's going on? I'm getting social connected here. As always, as I start the recording process, we broadcast live, but the Polite Society podcast still is, and always will be a podcast. So we record live, and what you get when you listen to the podcast is exactly what we do when we're here on YouTube and Facebook, but I've got to get everything connected correctly for this to all happen. So, and I got one more thing to hit, and we are ready to go. Including, we've got social media comments coming in. Very cool. So let's take a look at the show notes. I thought I had, and somebody's already been in there and been editing everybody in show notes and ready to do their part.
I got it good to go.
All righty.
Mm-hmm.
All right. In that case, Masada Youb's tones are coming at us in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Hey gang, this is Masada Youb from the Pro Arms Podcast. I'm here to remind you that our podcast is a member of the Self-Defense Radio Network, and I'm going to suggest you do what we do and check out the other podcasts at selfdefenseradio.net.
Treat every firearm as if it's loaded.
Never point a firearm at anything you're not willing to kill or destroy.
Keep your finger off the trigger until you are on target and ready to fire.
Always be sure of your target and what lies beyond it.
Hi, and welcome to the Polite Society podcast presented by the Second Amendment Foundation. We're recording this on Pi Day, Monday, the 14th of March, 2022. I'm Paul Lathrop.
I'm Charlie Cook, and on tonight's show, we'll have Frank Tait, a recent passenger on the Stagecoach, who is about to run for the NRA Board of Directors.
I'm Robin Sandoval, and we'll talk about the ATF getting new powers under an omnibus spending bill that was passed in a rush in the middle of the night.
I'm Rob Beckman. We'll talk about Alabama getting the number 2 spot in the constitutional carry states, and hot off the press, Ohio is number 23. So climb aboard.
Strap in.
And hang on.
Episode 6 something. It's not right in show notes. We're at 615, 616, somewhere in there. I'm going to say episode 616 of the Polite Society podcast starts right now. All right, it's Monday. It's 6 p.m. in the Central Time Zone, the only time zone that matters. So, Charlie, it's Pie Day. Did you have a good slice of apple pie today, man?
I did not. I went to the grocery store and bought some cookies.
There you go. So what have you been up to since the last time we've been on the air, bud?
I had 3.14 of the cookies, though, I got to tell you.
Okay.
Boy, I put out a show. I'm glad Frank's going to be on tonight because I had Frank as a passenger on the Stagecoach last week. We put out a great show. He's got a lot of great things that he wants to do with the NRA. I did a home firearm safety class yesterday for a mother and her 2 sons. The father already has his license to carry and one of his firearms, and that's kind of what I've been up to in the gun world. Robin, how about yourself? You're always traveling, always busy.
Yeah, things have been really busy here at A Girl and a Gun. We're getting ready for our 10th annual national conference where we're going to have 557 students on the firing line. Really excited about that and a lot of work going on with that. But I was able to take a break last week and I took 12 instructors to become USCCA certified defensive shooting fundamentals instructors. So I was on that firing line. It was super fun, a lot of really great information, and all 12 of us 100% pass rate, so that was a really great accomplishment. A lot of fun last week, and then I'm back at my desk this week working on conference again, but that was a nice fun getaway. Rob, how about you?
I've been going along and I've been carrying every day. And besides the work over the weekend, also been going along and answering a lot of questions here in Ohio when it comes to constitutional carry and adjusting my class schedules appropriately because we're trying to do some smaller classes and promoting education among other things in the state of Ohio. But enjoying myself. And how about you, Paul?
Well, for me, it's been last week. It was announced and released that the Second Amendment Foundation this year, the Gun Rights Policy Conference is going back live and in person again. The end of September is the September 30th, October 1st, and October 2nd is GRPC this year. And that put my schedule into overdrive because, as most everybody who watches the show knows, I broadcast that along with I'm a big part of planning AmCon, and I kind of host AmCon, which is the Alternative Mass Media Conference, which happens in conjunction with Gun Rights Policy Conference. So I went from most of my time putting into planning and executing the bullet and polite society to now I've got to all of a sudden get into high gear in planning broadcasts and get AmCon into high gear, and it's joyful, but my time went from a little bit to absolutely zero. That's kind of how my week went. So, but I am pleased as punch. I cannot wait for the end of September when we can all get together again. It's every year the highlight of my year, and I've missed it so much over the last 2 years. So
I'm so sad I won't get to see you guys because that's the same time as A Girl and a Gun's Fall Fest.
Oh no!
I will be hosting our multi-gun match that weekend. I know. I'm so sad.
I'm protesting. I'm going to have to talk to those girls I got. You know what I mean?
All right. Well, before we take off to break, I do need to, if I can find the right button. I only use this setup once a week, so every once in a while I lose the button, but I did just find it. I want to talk to everybody really quick about the Self-Defense Radio Network. Of course, we're a founding member of the network. You can see us up there on the top left of the shows that are there. But you can also see Amanda Suffolk's Eye on the Target Radio, Rob Morris's Self-Defense Gun Stories is there, Firearms Chat, Charlie Cook's Riding Shotgun with Charlie is there. A lot of great podcasts. Our tagline, all your pro-freedom podcasts in one place. If you go to sdrn.us, if you choose to, you can listen to the shows right off the website, or the subscription information is right there. If what you find you're like what you're listening to, you can get to the subscription information right there as well. Go do check it out, please, at sdrn.us. Let's do this. We're going to step aside to break real quick. When we come back, Frank Tait is patiently waiting. We're going to talk to him about running for the NRA Board of Directors and what all that entails. And we'll get to that, folks, right after we hear from the good folks at ACLDN.
This portion of the Polite Society podcast is brought to you by the Armed Citizens Legal Defense Network. If you carry a defensive handgun, you need protection from the aftermath of prosecution. Even if you do everything right, you can be the victim of an overzealous prosecutor or even be falsely accused. That is where the ACLDN comes in. They provide immediate assistance when you need it most. If you find yourself under arrest, they immediately pay bail money and the retainer for your attorney. Additional funds are available for trial and civil proceedings. Beyond the money, they have far and away the best team in the industry, providing you invaluable information and training DVDs that are included with your membership, and who stand ready to work with your lawyer on your defense. People like Masad Ayub, John Farnham, James Fleming, Tom Gibbons, Emmanuel Capelson, Dennis Tuller, and led by Network President Marty Hayes. Initial membership is only $135 for your first year, and you get 8 incredible training DVDs and other educational material when you join. If you don't have tens of thousands of dollars to defend yourself at your disposal right now, you need to be a member of the ACLDN. Go to armedcitizensnetwork.org and become a member today. And please mention that you heard about them on the Polite Society podcast.
All right. Well, welcome back to the interview segment of the Polite Society podcast presented by the Second Amendment Foundation. Joining us tonight is Frank Tait. Frank is running for the NRA Board of Directors, and we've had him on the air before. Frank, I want to get started with you're running for the NRA Board of Directors, and generally people don't, and you're running on a platform of change. People don't generally do that if they think that everything is peachy keen and things are going the right way. What do you think is going? Where do you think the NRA is missing the mark right now? And why do you, and what do you want to change about what it's doing?
Well, Paul, I started running in 2019 after the annual meeting. I stood up at the annual meeting and put a resolution in front of the board and the members calling for the resignations of Wayne LaPierre, the audit committee, the executive committee, for basically malfeasance in office. All of the information about the excessive benefits, the expenditures without appropriate contract, and the lack of oversight by the board were coming out. I'm an experienced board member. I've been serving on boards for over 25 years, and what I see from the board of directors is a board that is basically functioning as a social organism and a rubber stamp for management. The board takes its direction from the CEO as opposed to the other way around. Boards are responsible for talent. They're responsible for strategy and for risk mitigation. And the board, in the area of talent, the board has not developed a succession plan for Wayne LaPierre or the other senior leaders in the NRA. And I believe it was John Richardson at the 2020 annual meeting put a resolution in front of the board calling for a formal succession plan. That resolution was defeated, and Charles Cotton, who is now the president, laughed and said, well, we did a good job with Jason Lemay. We don't need a process. And to me, that's broken. The second part is the strategy. The NRA, to me, is too passive. It's not aggressively going out and fighting. It's not working with the state-level organizations to the degree that they could to fight in the states, because that's where the battle is. And as you pointed out earlier, we've gotten Alabama for constitutional carry. We just got Ohio. But Florida, yet again, did not pass it, and their legislative session closed today. So then you've got Marion Hammer down there. So we should have been all over that, and Florida should have been the 24th state. And to me, the other part is risk. Now you're looking at an audit committee that got a whistleblower report in 2019. The external directors were not there when the whistleblower report was presented. The chair of the audit committee left the meeting. That's not the way you deal with whistleblowers for malfeasance. And examples are the tens of millions of dollars wasted on a bankruptcy filing that never should have been made. The board should have been taking a vote to do that before it was filed, not after. And then examples of things like the Chris Cox contract, where they've spent, I believe it's now $8 million to defend a $2 million dispute. Who's making risk decisions that says, why are we spending 8 to save 2? That makes no sense.
Well, when you brought up the, and I'm speaking as largely an outsider, I'm a life member of the NRA, but that's about as close of a connection as I have. I'm one of millions of life members, is my understanding, so I don't have that close of a connection to the NRA, but I had thought for a very long time that the succession was kind of set up, that it was Wayne LaPierre, and then the successor was, it looked to me like Chris Cox was being groomed as the successor, and then 2019 happened, and apparently not.
Yeah. Well, when you look at a board of directors, when you think about succession planning, it's not just for the CEO or the executive vice president. You're looking at the entire senior management team. You're looking at the CFO. You're looking at the head of operations. You're looking at the head of the foundation. So you're looking at all those levels, and you're saying, who is our basically your tier 1, your tier 2, and your tier 3 successors. And then for the tier 1 successors, what are we doing to get them prepared? For tier 2, they may be 3 years or more away from being ready. So again, what kind of assignments or development are they getting to be able to groom them? And it's not just one person. And I think that's part of the problem, is that since Wayne has taken over as EVP, all the power has coalesced in Wayne, and that the board needs a management team to operate effectively. It's not just a CEO.
So one more question, then I'm going to open it up to my co-hosts here. But Frank, the board as it sits is 76 members, I believe. It's 75 with one at-large elected by the people who attend the NRA annual meetings every year. But 76 people on the board of directors. What can Frank do? What can Frank Tait do as one of 76 people?
As one of 76 on the board, you're just beating on a wall. The one thing that being on the board gives me is standing in the lawsuits, because I think you were aware that Mario Akira and I filed to intervene in the New York Attorney General case back in the fall, trying to get the death penalty or the dissolution of the NRA off the table, and also to remove management and the board that aren't doing their job, and to bring in a new board, basically a members council, to effectively administer the NRA and bring this case to a prompt resolution. We were denied standing because there weren't enough members on that. And then Rocky Marshall tried it again as a sitting director, but by the time it got to the judge for a decision, Rocky's term had expired, and so his motion was denied. So to me, that's standing number one, is that the judge understands that there are people who are interested in reforming the NRA that are part of the NRA, and that's why dissolution is off the table. The second thing is transparency and accountability. I was at the last board meeting, and I was blogging. I went to the various committee meetings and the board meeting, and I blogged about what I heard and saw. I was not allowed to be in executive session. And I actually had a director come up to me, and he was upset with me for sharing information from the committee meetings, because that's they want everything controlled through the public relations group. But to me, that's where the public relations only shares what the NRA wants them to know, and to me, the members are entitled to all the information that's publicly available that occurs in general sessions of board committees, of board meetings, and they need to know. Members need to know what's going on, not just be spoon-fed what Wayne and I will call it the Cotton Willis Lee group want them to know. Other things that I can do, I expect that getting on the board, I'm running as a reformer, so I am not going to get on any committees. I want to get on the audit committee and the finance committee. They're not going to put me on. But kind of like, I forget the congressman, was it Congressman Green, who was taken off all of her committees in Congress? That means she can go to anyone she wants to. I'm semi-retired. I live roughly 2 hours from the NRA. So I'm of the position where if I need to fly somewhere, I can. So my intention is to go to as many committee meetings as I can, and as many meetings that the NRA is holding, and I'm going to share the information unless there is a seal by the court or it's something in executive session that by board governance you can't share. I want the members to know what's going on with the board. And I'd say one other thing is I'm going to be part of a group working to get a slate of candidates reform candidates on the ballot for 2023.
Okay.
Cool. Frank, how can more people that are NRA members and voting members, how can they get educated on all the stuff that's going on? I think a lot of people hear what's going on and just kind of throw their hands up. They get all worked up about it. They say, yeah, you know what, forget Wayne, we got to get rid of him. And I'm not sure they know enough of the stuff that's going on behind the scenes. How do people learn about that?
I think that's one of the big challenges, because the NRA has the website, and like with the lawsuits, there's a legal page that gives you all the updates from that perspective. To me, there's a couple of blogs that are doing a really nice job on it. John Richardson's blog, Guns and Money, is a great source of information. The other one that I find is my go-to is a blog called NRA in Danger. That blog is dissecting all the financial reports and the legal updates. NRA in Danger is a great summary. And then also my blog, which is taitnra.substack.com. I excerpt from John and from NRA in Danger. We're not sure who NRA in Danger is. They're anonymous, but they do fantastic work. But to me, it's helping spread that word as news pieces come out, and as rulings and filings come about in the courts. They're the places to go and get it.
I want to get a comment in here. Roderick over on the Facebook side says, I'm a 40-year NRA member, and I single voted for Frank a week ago. And Frank, really, that for people who are NRA members, that is the most effective way to vote for a member for the board, is just to vote for one person, right?
If I can explain, if you think about voting as a plus and a minus, voting for someone gives them a plus, that moves them up. Not voting for someone gives them a minus. Basically, it holds them back. So by bullet voting or only voting for one person, that basically takes me above everybody else on the ballot. When I ran in 2020, I came in dead ass last, but I still had 56,000 votes. And to get on the board this year, I figure I need about 80,000 votes. But the key is I have to get enough votes to be in the top 25. So as long as I get enough votes, and the more people that bullet vote for me, that holds down the vote totals of all the other candidates on the ballot, and that should give me a better chance of being in the top 25.
Frank, like you, I'm a life member of the NRA as well as a NRA training counselor. One of the things that I think a lot of people don't realize is the shape that the education side is, and how far behind they are in some of the curriculum when you talk about different tools and different things like that when it comes to firearms. Robin just talked about going to defensive shooting fundamentals, and there's not a similar course over on the NRA side, and that's, I think, one of the problems with the current management, where they've kind of lost their ways. What are your plans as far as trying to bring the training education, which really is a lot of the public face of what people expect the NRA to be doing? What are your plans for that?
Well, I think I would start, number one, by addressing the 8.4 million new gun owners in 2020 and the 5.6 million. This was in the NSSF yesterday. Is that all those gun owners need good firearm safety training, and the education and training part of the NRA needs to go. I think they have 6 people in it, and they need to serve all these millions. It's severely under-resourced. They need to be able to move faster. And they also need to break away from the not invented here syndrome, where they have to write everything themselves. There are phenomenal trainers and educators in the Second Amendment community that have offered material to the NRA. As an example, I think it was in 2009, I offered a defensive carbine curriculum to the NRA in terms of how to do that, and nothing ever happened with it. I'm still teaching the defensive carbine class. But we need to get more, to me, it needs to be better resourced. I think the latest things that have come out, the new basic rifle book that came out, I will just say that I think USCCA has been a phenomenal competitor to the NRA, and I would say embarrassed the education and training group into upping its game, and they're now producing high quality graphics and good material and material that meets the I'll just call it the audiovisual standards of the current age. But they need to do more, and do faster.
I'm going to step in because I can already tell that we're going to start to get some comments that this is nothing but NRA bashing. I personally, and I've heard this from my boss, Alan Gottlieb, but I'm going to echo this. We need a strong NRA. I do not want the NRA to go away. I am a member myself. I will probably be a member for the rest of my life. I am a life member. I have no intentions of giving that up. The NRA has been a wonderful boon to the American people and a wonderful boon to the right to keep and bear arms. I think it can be again. I do not want to bash the NRA. Are there problems with the NRA? Right now, absolutely there are problems with the NRA. But I think the Attorney Generals of New York's trying to break up the NRA and dissolve it was a political game to start with, and she came way too close to succeeding. And I think that's unfortunate that the leadership that's currently at the head of the NRA allowed it to get that far.
If I can, I think part of it is the NRA is spending way too much money on legal fees that they don't need to be spending, and that is taking money away from the good work that the NRA does. I mean, I was at an NRA Friends of NRA dinner the other night, raising money for youth programs. The gun club I'm the chairman of the board of, we just got a grant to be able to get us more ammo for our junior rifle program and an Anschutz rifle for one of the kids that's going to be a distinguished expert in the next year. So the NRA and the NRA Foundation do phenomenal work. When I go out, I'm in Pennsylvania. When I go to Harrisburg and we go to talk to our legislators, I mean, we had our House and our Senate pass constitutional carry, and our governor vetoed it. But when we go out and we talk to those elected officials, their question is, where is the NRA on this? And we need a strong NRA to defend our rights.
Amen.
I agree that we need a strong NRA to defend our rights, but like Rob said, we also need a strong NRA for training. And I think, like you said, that the NRA is just not tapping into the existing talent pool that's there among its membership. I'm a member, I'm an instructor, and I think there's so much talent within the NRA already. And so why would you say, what do you think maybe that the board could do, or what would you propose, Frank, if you're on the board, of how you could tap into the talent that's already within the NRA in order to move the NRA further?
Well, I think part of it's a cultural issue because the NRA is very much an inside out. When you talk to people in the business world, the NRA has its vendors and its suppliers, and it works with them, and that's it. And it's very hard to bring new thoughts and new ideas in. And to me, that's one of the big challenges is how do you break that culture? Because that culture comes from the top. It comes from Wayne. But I think that, Robin, as you said, there are thousands of highly skilled educators and trainers that could expand the NRA's curriculum and bring things out. I mean, right now I'm working with the National African American Gun Association to try and develop NRA instructors for that group to be able to bring the NRA message into the inner city community. I've got a group working in Baltimore and Washington where they've trained they've provided home firearm safety classes for over 2,000 families over the past 2 years. To me, that's more of what the NRA needs to be doing. It's not just waiting for instructor candidates to come to them. We need to be getting out in the Hispanic community. We need to be getting into the LGBT community. We need to be getting into the African American community and developing credible messengers and instructors. But it's a two-way street. We need to be able to take the message that works for those communities and bring that into the NRA so we can expand it and get it even broader.
We are down at the bottom of the hour. We need to head to break. We've been getting a lot of great comments in. Everybody keep putting your comments in. I'm going to come out when we come out of break. I'm going to get to a lot of these comments, and we'll discuss those as we come out of break. But for right now, we do need to, and Frank, you can hang on with us for one more segment, right?
Happy to.
All right. Folks, we're going to hear from CNJFO. When we come back, we'll have one more segment with Frank Tait. Hang on. We'll be right back right after this.
New Jersey is a civil rights wasteland where an unconstitutional law known as justifiable need keeps ordinary citizens from exercising their right to bear arms. New Jersey spits in the eye of freedom, ignores the Bill of Rights and the Heller decision. New Jersey politics are an anti-civil rights bulldozer and a spreading cancer. The Coalition of New Jersey Firearms Owners, a tax-exempt nonprofit, has a goal to defeat justifiable need, reverse course on all anti-freedom laws, and render aid to other jurisdictions by filing Supreme Court-bound litigation. CNJFO is a beacon of freedom behind the Iron Curtain in New Jersey. Join CNJFO's strong, enthusiastic patriots. Support the Coalition of New Jersey Firearms Owners today. Protect all our rights and return freedom to the Garden State. To donate or learn more, go to cnjfo.com.
Hey, and welcome back to the Second Amendment Foundation's Polite Society podcast. This is our second interview segment with Frank Tait, who's running for the NRA Board of Directors. Frank, over on the YouTube side, Diane says, sounds like the NRA is just like the media. Holding information from the members is just not good business. It's quite often that, for example, when the judgment came down that no, you're not going to break up the NRA. We learned a lot in that when that judgment was released that quite frankly was surprising to me. And then a lot of the stuff is just, it seems like the board of directors meetings, they go about maybe 15-20 minutes, and then they go into executive session, and nothing ever else is heard.
Yeah, well, in talking to board members, the NRA board operates more like a legislature than a board, and that one of my comments has been that the board spends most of its time dealing with tactical issues rather than driving the strategy of the organization. Certain information needs to be in executive session. You're dealing with legal matters. To maintain your privilege, you have to do that in executive session. Finance materials. Personally, since we're a nonprofit, the 990 is published. Unless you're dealing with people's salaries, and the top executives have to have their salaries published anyway. The finance of the organization ought to be public. The membership details in terms of puts and takes. How many dropped off, how many came on. That ought to be public. One of the things that I know there's a group looking at all the NRA clubs that used to have NRA membership as mandatory to be a member of a gun club that have dropped that. And what has that done to NRA membership, and what is the NRA doing about it? Because right now it seems that the NRA is asking for money to defend the NRA from the lawsuits, and then that money is going out to the Brewer law firm, and there's this little bit of money left to actually run the business of the NRA and what we need to be doing to serve our members, and particularly for the instructors to serve the public.
And get the next comment in. And Rick wants to know, aren't the legal fees an attempt by the enemies of the NRA to try to bankrupt them? Well, there was a bankruptcy filing by the NRA, but I think that was just kind of an end around to try and get out of the mess in New York. I don't... The more that a state such as New York goes after the NRA, I think trying to bankrupt the NRA could be a side goal. Absolutely. What do you think, Frank?
Yeah, I think yes. I think I'd say it's a three-pronged effect. One prong is it keeps the NRA distracted. It keeps them off the political field. I think that was an impact in the 2020 election, as that the NRA was not able to provide the amount of resources and volunteers that it did in the 2016 election. Second, it's a distraction and a cash drain. The NRA had to go through layoffs. It had to reduce staff. It had to reduce operations, and that I think it curtails the ability for the NRA to bring its message to the public. And then I think the third part is the NRA selected the Brewer law firm, and that when you hear in the legal filings that, okay, here's $1 million invoice with no backup detail. Now, I was in business for a long time. I've had teams of lawyers working for me on transactions. I would get a detailed bill of every lawyer and everything that they did, and I would have to approve that before we would pay that bill. I'm not, we're not taking $1 million invoice that says $1 million and that's all that's on it, and then Charles Cotton and at that point Carolyn Meadows and Wayne LaPierre said, okay, let's pay it. To me, that's completely inappropriate, and I think the NRA is, in terms of all the money going out for legal fees, they are as complicit as the external organizations that are trying to force the NRA to spend money.
One more comment. Well, actually, I've got two more comments here. Butch on the Facebook side says, everyone here in New York feels like the NRA has given up on our state. And I want to spread that out a little farther. There's a feeling among the general area in the states, all states, that the NRA is, as far as on the state level, they're just not as active as they used to be.
I think that's spot on, and I think one of the things the NRA needs to do a better job of is working with the state level organizations. I'm in Pennsylvania. I'm in enemy territory. I mean, Mary Gay Scanlon, who is the vice chair of the Judiciary Committee, is my congressperson. Extremely anti-gun. I've got an anti-gun governor. I've got an anti-gun senator with Casey. And the NRA does not spend any money in this part of the state over here. But there's a state organization, Firearms Owners Against Crime. They're working to get the right gun bills in. They were the ones with Gun Owners of America pushing constitutional carry. And to me, the NRA needs to decide what it can do, and then if there's something that's in support of the Second Amendment that the NRA can't do, they need to effectively partner with the other organizations that can. And to me, that's one of the big things I want to push for getting on the board.
All right, last comment for right now. Corey says, as an NRA instructor and a NAAGA state director for Louisiana, I can tell you the biggest challenge for the NRA with the black community is the silence from the top on cases like Philando Castile. While I personally try to change persecution of the NRA, this is a huge challenge. Thank you, Frank Tait.
Yeah. Well, to me, that's an example of partnering with an organization. NAAGA is going out and is doing the outreach in the community that is buying the guns. These are where the new gun owners are. They need an organization that's going to help them understand gun safety rules and responsible gun ownership. When you think about firearm accidents, it's because of carelessness or lack of knowledge, and that organizations like NAAGA can help deal with the lack of knowledge issue. And again, that's where the NRA ought to be supporting NAAGA, not ignoring them.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and we've pretty much caught up on comments here for the moment. I'm going to open this back up to my staff. You guys have anything else you want to talk about?
I have a question that is relating to the election, because Frank, I've voted for you before, and I think the question is, if so many decisions are being made unilaterally, and everything's behind closed doors, and decisions are being made on the NRA by a select, insulated group of people, are the elections even legit? Is that a question that you've ever been asked? Because that's kind of the rumblings around I've heard many times.
I've been asked that question as well, and I would say the elections are legitimate. They use an accounting firm who puts their professional reputation on the line to make sure that the ballots are appropriate. But I will say the deck is stacked very deeply against reform candidates, because to get through the nominating committee, you basically have to commit to support the status quo, and that process has been in place for over 20 years. So when you look at the way the ballots come out, you've got on one page of the magazine the nominating committee list, and then you have the ballot. And so you have to go through and figure out who's on the ballot that's not in that list. So it's pretty deeply hidden who the reformers are. And that I'm aware of in the past, reformers who have tried to purchase advertising in the magazines and were denied the advertising. As a reform candidate, I cannot get access to the members list to be able to communicate to the members to vote for me. I have to do everything grassroots, social media, and then work through people in the media like the Polite Society podcast to help get the word out. So to me, it's a legit election, but the deck is stacked very deep against.
Sure. I want to get to a few more comments here because the comments are really flying in. We're getting some good ones. Rick over on the YouTube side says, seems like more like New York has given up on the NRA. You know, I got to say, and speaking fairly, if I were in the NRA shoes, I don't know how much I would be. It seems like New York is punching really hard at the NRA. How much do you want to go in and try and fight in a state that is trying to put you out of existence? I know it's not the people of New York that are doing it. It's a few in elected spots, but those spots got elected by a population. The next one, Roderick says, the NRA was at every constitutional carry hearing in Indiana. And then final one here, John over on the Facebook side says, the first thing the NRA needs to do is get rid of the corruption within, and until that happens, I will not support the NRA. That brings up a question for you, Frank, that I have. A lot of my friends have said, until Wayne is gone, I will not give one more penny to the NRA. I'm not giving them any more support. I hear that from a lot of areas. Do you think that's affecting the NRA right now?
I think that that message is blocked from getting to the board. The NRA uses a third party to do all of its fundraising solicitations. And I know of a lot of people, they get the mail solicitation, they write it not a dime until Wayne's gone, send it back. Other people have just stopped taking the calls, they block the emails, take me off the list. As far as I'm aware, no one in the membership group or with that third party has ever compiled that information and gone back to the board and said, this is what it's costing us to not deal with this issue. These are members who have dropped because of the corruption. These are members who are willing to come back once this is cleaned up. And then to me, the big one is, when you have, 13 million new gun owners over the last 2 years, and the NRA membership has declined, and fundraising from members has declined. That says that to me, that's a strong message to the board that I do not. In anything that I have been in the board, and I've been to the last, I think 6 board meetings, that message has not been brought out to the board members. And when you talk to board members, I should say, when I've spoken to former board members, they said that they are not aware of any message like that ever getting to the board. So just like there was an earlier comment about information not getting from management to the membership, there's also information not getting from management to the board to help them effectively govern the organization.
All right, I think one more question from my staff, and then we need to let Frank go. We need to get on with the show. Anybody got another?
Yeah, Frank, how hard do you think it's going to be to get other board members on board with you on making these changes? If they don't know about any of these things and they're unaware of that the members are unhappy, is it feasible that you're going to be able to make some changes and some strides?
A long haul. Short term, the first board meeting, which is going to be the Monday right after the annual meeting, I doubt that there's going to be much change happening in that. I will start asking questions. And then I'm going to be going down to headquarters and asking to review the documents, similar to what Rocky Marshall did when he got on the board. I'm an accountant by education. I know how to read balance sheets. I've been a senior executive in public companies and private companies that were twice as large as the NRA at its peak. So I understand how to read management reports and I know how to read between the lines in management reports. I don't just take what's written on face value. But to me, it's going to take getting more people like that on the board. But to me, depending on how the lawsuit goes out, if the judge removes what he considers to be the corrupt, well, I shouldn't say the corrupt. If he removes the group that he feels are not in compliance with New York law, then that would be the former CFO, Wayne LaPierre, John Frazier, and to me the board members that enabled that. Then there's going to need to be a new board constituted and structured. And I think there's tremendous opportunity there to get the kind of reform a lot faster. So I hate to say, but we're waiting on the judge. But given his ruling so far, and in particular shutting down Letitia James on being able to shut down the NRA, I think I like this judge. I've listened to a couple of his hearings, and I think he plays it down the middle. And he recognizes that the NRA is about serving its members, not protecting its executives.
Very cool. Well, Frank, we're right up against the break again, but wanted to get this comment in from Rick on the YouTube side. He says, thank you, Frank, for your input and efforts. I want to echo that. And Frank, I want to thank you for taking your time tonight to talk with us. And I certainly wish you the best on your run for the NRA board. And real quickly, the NRA ballots are due in the fairly near future, aren't they?
Yeah, they are the next couple of weeks. And I would ask anyone who is a voting member who has not yet voted, please bullet vote for me.
Very, very cool. All right, well, again, we need to run to break, but again, thank you, Frank, for joining us, and best of luck in the election.
Appreciate the opportunity. Thank you, guys.
Folks, we are going to go ahead and step aside right here. We're going to hear from JPFO, and we'll be back with our news segment right after this.
In 1928, Germany required its citizens to register their firearms, making possible Hitler's 1938 Nazi Weapons Act, disarming all Jews. Now ask yourself, what is the real consequence of registration? All in favor of gun control, raise your right hand. Brought to you by Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership, America's aggressive civil rights organization. jpfo.org.
Hey, and welcome back. This is a news segment of the Polite Society podcast presented by the Second Amendment Foundation. Excuse me. Normally we've got a nice script to go, and Susan has got the office behind me, and she's all mic'd up and ready to read the news, but Susan's out tonight, so it's just us chickens here. So I'm going to kind of go off the cuff on this first one. Last Wednesday, in the middle of the night, the House passed an appropriations bill, and I'm paraphrasing. All last week, I was hearing about they're trying to avoid a government shutdown. They're going to pass a spending bill, and we've heard that so much over the past few years. They don't ever pass a budget. It's a rush spending bill to keep the government open for a few more months. Well, the House passed it Wednesday. The Senate passed it Thursday. What totally slipped by everybody and didn't hit my radar until Friday night / Saturday morning was, in this omnibus spending, there was a whole bunch of gun control in there that, unfortunately, a good amount of Republicans went ahead and voted for. I've always been a fan of Senator John Thune from South Dakota. He has been a stalwart supporter of the Second Amendment, and he several years ago was one of the very first senators, and he almost got it passed. He championed a national reciprocity bill. If this thing would have went through, this was in the Obama era, if this thing would have went through, your Ohio concealed carry permit would have been good in New York City. My South Dakota carry permit would have been good in Honolulu, Hawaii. That was a John Thune bill. It almost got there. So John Thune, a very strong supporter of Second Amendment causes, voted for this thing. Let me go to some of the things that were actually in this bill. Sections 101 and 102 grant funding programs to police to execute red flag gun confiscation orders. Section 801 is an expansion of the Lautenberg misdemeanor gun ban, aka Biden's boyfriend loophole. And for those of you who watched the Bullet broadcast about an hour and a half ago, that boyfriend loophole, that's not a loophole. I dated a crazy person in my early 20s. Yeah.
Who did?
I'm telling you. Charlie dated a crazy person a few months ago, but that's neither here nor there. 802 funding to turn state-level stalking laws into red flag gun confiscation laws, and the big ones, sections 1101, 1102, and we talked about this a few weeks ago, the NICS Denial Notification Act. If you get denied, even if it's wrongly, even if it's a false denial, to launch a criminal investigation into firearms transfer background check denials. If you get a denial on a NICS check, you're going to get a federal investigation launched on you. And finally, Section 1103, funding for the ATF to deputize local law enforcement. And this, what they're trying to do is states with a Second Amendment Protection Act, they'll say, okay, well, this allows the ATF to deputize local law enforcement. So, okay, now you're no longer a St. Louis city cop. Now you're a deputy for the ATF. So it's a way around Second Amendment sanctuary states is what that is. It's a bunch of horse feathers. Let's put it that way.
Right. It's the whole thing is infuriating, and you know the one that you were just talking about, the Denial Notification Act. There, it's if you didn't capitalize a letter, then it would get rejected. If you can't read the letter, then it would get rejected, and it's not good. And they're now going to be putting this time and energy into law-abiding citizens who probably have carry permits, who have passed other background checks before, and now they're not going to pass a background check because of possibly some clerical error, and there's going to be a whole investigation into this. And then the next time you fill out an application for a carry permit or for a gun license, when they ask if you've ever been denied a license, yeah, now you've been denied, and this is going to haunt you for the rest of your life.
Yep.
The problem with the NICS check is, I mean, Dr. John Lott talks about this a lot, and how the NICS system itself was set up to be basically discriminatory, because it's not like when you go to an HR interview and you are getting a new job and they run your social and it's your unique identifier to see if it's you. They just run your name. So if you have a common name, that's going to pull up a lot of different people, which, you know, a lot of people share similar names of similar cultures or age ranges. So if there's someone that has your name that has a negative ding on their mark, it's going to come back to you. So until the NICS system is completely revised in the way that people are actually cross-referenced in that system, it's going to just be another basis for discrimination.
I'm actually Facebook friends with a gentleman in Illinois by the name of Paul Lathrop, and dude, I am so sorry. You have to put up with people that think you're me, you know. Man. Anyway, let me get. I knew this is good. We're getting fast and furious. We're getting comments coming in here, and most of them are coming from the YouTube side. I wonder if we don't have a glitch on the Facebook side, but
I'll be the first one to admit to I'm one of those people that get delayed on a regular basis due to things in my background. Nothing illegal. It's just part of what's in my background type of thing. And it's one of those issues to where I've got a concealed carry permit. I own a bunch of guns. You know, I do everything. And guess what? You know, I go buy a new one, and for some reason somebody goes along and says, "Oh, we're gonna go along and delay this person," and it doesn't make any sense at all. We better go along and fix the process, like Robin was talking about. Fix the process when it comes to being quicker. You know, if we've got Amazon credit cards, all these other things that we can do instantaneously, why does the ATF take so long to do background checks? Why does it go along? And it's just so infuriating to take the time first to have to do a background check, and second of all realize that it's a constitutional right that you have to go and get permission to exercise.
And I just realized we're on that particular screen. I've got to go back and fix this. The 4-shot with the comments. I got to put. And where is that's not what I want. Anyway, I want to get this comment up, but I got to fix this fast. And there. So, try this again. Rick says, 2,700 plus page bill that apparently no one read, nor could have read in the time allotted. You know what? And let's go back to the Obama days. Let's go back to the end of Obama's first 2 years, when it was a Democratic House, Democratic Senate, and Obama. And it was coming into a Republican House, a Republican Senate, and Obama. And what did we get out of that? We got Obamacare, and you got to pass it to read what's in it. And that's what this was.
Yeah, bunch of bunk. I ended up on the no-fly list one time. I don't know if anyone has ended up on that.
How'd you get off it?
I don't know. I don't know how I got on, and I don't know how I got off of it. I had some firearms that were stolen. I had a suitcase stolen from me at the Providence Airport in 2007, and I had 4 firearms that were in there. I dutifully reported it to the FBI stolen firearm hotline. I did all the stuff I needed to do in my state, and 2 weeks after my stuff was stolen, I got a phone call from someone that said his roommate stole my suitcase and he's turning everything over to the Pawtucket, Rhode Island Police Department. I said, everything? And he's like, everything. And there were 3 handguns there were 3 handguns that I got back with someone else's clothes in my suitcase, and the 4th gun was used as evidence, and it stayed at the Providence Police Department until the case was done. 2 years after this happened, I was going to fly, and I checked in. I got my boarding pass. This is, before smartphones, and that was still with Blackberries. Anyway, I went to go board, and the lady asked for my driver's license. I gave her the driver's license. She handed it back to me. I put it in my wallet. She says, "Oh, can I see your driver's license again?" I hand it back to her. I said, "Is everything okay?" And she's like, "Oh, your name's on the no-fly list." I'm like, "Oh." And then she hands me my driver's license and my boarding pass and says, "Have a safe flight." Then I went through the security. I got through with my keys. On my keys was one of those little miniature knives. I got through with that while they were looking at a hat pin of a Tommy gun on my hat. And I had a fork with me as well because I was bringing a salad to eat. And 2 days later, I was flying back.
What year was this?
I was eating salad. This was 2009.
So it's after 9/11. And
After
you're dealing with the TSA and the wonderful professionals they are.
You got it. And then 2 days later, I was flying back, and the lady, I went to the boarding counter, and the lady's like, "Oh, just use the kiosk." I'm like, I don't think that's a good idea. And she's like, "No, go right ahead." I'm like, "No, really, I'd like to do this here with you." "No, go do it." So I went over to the kiosk. I entered the information. Nothing. She comes over, and she's like, "What's the problem here?" I'm like, I was on the no-fly list 2 days ago, and she's like, "Oh, let me see your driver's license." Takes my driver's license, goes over to her computer, comes back with the printed out the boarding pass, gave me my driver's license and my ticket, and said, "Have a nice flight." All right.
So it's really more of just an FYI than a no-fly zone.
Maybe not.
Right.
Okay. Maybe not. Just let us know that you are, Liz.
Well, the thing that kills me with all these government lists, I go back and I remember the time when they passed the Fair Credit Reporting Act, where everybody got the ability to go request a copy of your credit record. So if you had an issue with your credit or something was incorrect about it, that you could go along and get it corrected. Why do the government have all these lists and you have no way of finding out how to get on the list, what's on the background, or anything else like that in order to clear things up, so that they would have the proper information? I mean, you're not trying to delete proper information. You're just trying to go along and get the honest, truth out there. And it just is befuddling to me that they go along and pass laws to say, okay, the credit companies have to do this, but when it comes to things that really, really, really impact your life, like no-fly list and your the FBI background checks, things like that, there's no way for you to go along and get that information easily without spending a lot of money and a lot of your time.
Yeah.
I think we all just have to assume we're on the list. The four of us, we're on all the lists.
Oh, I guarantee you I'm on a lot of lists. I will absolutely guarantee that. Dana says that they want to use the no-fly for denying gun purchases. Yep. I want to get to some other comments here. The anti-gun side in Senate was one short if the GOP didn't support. And Randy over on the Facebook side said this omnibus bill was actually over 5,000 pages long, presented at 1:35 a.m. and voted on at 10 a.m. that morning, giving absolutely no one time to read it thoroughly, period.
It's a whole box of paper that you would put through your printer. 5,000 pages is a box of paper, weighs 40 pounds.
Yeah, it's 50 pounds
unreal.
of paper.
Mm-hmm. Unreal.
Yeah, Rick, back over to Rick on the YouTube side. They were deputizing them as federal agents of the ATF. Yeah, I want to go back to that part. Part of this gives the ATF the ability to deputize local law enforcement as federal agents. And that's entirely designed to go around these state Second Amendment protection acts. The one that has the most teeth in it that I'm aware of is Missouri's. And in Missouri, if you are a local person, a local police officer, sheriff, deputy sheriff, whatever, and you choose to help federal law enforcement, that's against Missouri law and you can be charged. Well, what they're trying to do with this is by deputizing them as federal agents, they're hoping to step around that. What I would say, if you're a deputy or if you're a police officer in Missouri and you're going to go ahead and do that, I would recommend first, before you accept that deputization, you resign your office as of a police officer or a deputy sheriff first. Turn in your badge first, then accept the deputization. Because otherwise, I think under Missouri law, I'm not an attorney, but I think you may still end up in legal trouble.
You know, what's interesting to me is hearing you talk about this is they want to take the local people and turn them into federal agents, ATF. Mm-hmm. But if we did the story last week on the Daily Bullet about the guy whose visa expired, and they said it wasn't an ICE problem, and the ICE agents, the local agents, couldn't report to ICE that they were letting out this illegal alien, this
right.
illegal immigrant. So, like, make up your mind. Can you take the local people and turn them into federal agents, or can you not have the local people talk to the federal agents? Like, it's got to be one way or the other. Like, you can't keep track of this. You need a scorecard to keep up with all the crap.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want that because that's a great analogy there, Charlie. Because and for people who don't catch the bullet, you should. But there was a case in California, a really bad guy murders 3 of his little girls and a adult in a church. This is under a court-ordered supervised visitation. Previous to this, the guy had been in jail about a week before and had said, I want to kill my girlfriend, I want to kill my 3 daughters, and I want to kill myself. And ICE, at that time, when he was in jail, says, hey, this is a bad guy, we want to deport him, put a request in, and I believe, was it Santa Clara County, if I'm remembering? I think it was, wasn't it, Charlie?
I think so.
Santa Clara County said, sorry, California is a sanctuary state. California sanctuary state, we don't comply with federal requests like that. And I remember, because Charlie was on with me that day, I kind of lost control a little bit. My blood pressure went about up here, and I declared that Gavin Newsom and the whole echelon of people down there are guilty for murders of 3 daughters, because this guy could have been out of the country, and their laws kept him here. Their weak criminal justice system let him out. They're now trying to blame a ghost gun, but it was their criminal justice system that failed to deal with him. And yeah, it's
Yeah, we covered it on the Weekly Bullet on Saturday as well.
Yeah.
Yes, we did. Mm-hmm.
So, because I mean, it's that important, and it's that honestly, it's that contradictory to what this is trying to do with the local officers.
Well, and getting back to that, Rick on the YouTube side, it says it doesn't seem possible to actually draft them as a federal deputy, and we talked about that on the Bullet just a little bit ago. Tom Knighton and I did. I don't. Every local law enforcement has, just like every soldier, at least all the law enforcement I've talked to, takes an oath of office. I swear to uphold the Constitution of the United States, yada, this, that, and the other. I don't think they have to. They have to enforce federal laws. I don't think they have to. They have to follow the orders of their immediate superior, as long as they're legal orders. But Randy, I didn't know this. As a retired police officer, it is illegal to hold 2 active law enforcement commissions at the same time. Randy, I've never been law enforcement. That's way over my head. So
Interesting.
Very interesting.
So they would have to retire.
Yeah.
I guess the question I want to know also is, are they going to get a federal pension as well as a local pension?
That was my first question too. Like,
that would be double dipping,
right?
Right.
Well, and let's be really honest about this. Federal, who are you? I mean, local. Let's say you are a. I'm gonna go really personal here. Let's say you're a Sioux Falls city of Sioux Falls police officer, or a Minnehaha County deputy sheriff. And the federal, the ATF comes in and says, we want to deputize you. Who do you think is going to treat you better when things go south? Sioux Falls Police Department, Minnehaha County Sheriff's Department, or the ATF? Who do you think's got your back? The ATF will dump you in a heartbeat. See Ruby Ridge, see Waco, Texas, see a bunch of other cases where things started going a little south and they dumped everybody that was involved right under the bus in a hurry. Anyway, we burned almost 30 minutes talking about this one topic. Let's go on to some happy news. Happened about, what, Rob, you said 30 minutes before we went to air?
That's when I started seeing the announcements coming up, about 30 minutes before.
Yeah, Ohio is now number 23.
We tried to beat up Alabama, but Alabama beat us on Friday. So Ohio is now the 23rd constitutional carry state. And what will happen with that is in approximately 90 days, that'll be the law of the land for it. So that's all good from a constitutional carry standpoint. I'm getting a lot of questions along those lines, but I'm still recommending people go along and take classes for it, for the simple reason constitutional carries are right, but it's your responsibility to understand the laws and how what you can and cannot do with it in the safe gun handling.
And wouldn't we rather have people spend their money on good quality training than spend their money on bureaucratic fees?
Absolutely. The training you get in a constitutional carry state doesn't have to be about what state law is. It's about, again, good gun handling practices and when you should and shouldn't shoot and how to actually shoot correctly. Doesn't have anything to do with, well, state law says this much of the gun can be seen in the case of Florida or whatever. So, yeah.
I just want to say, I don't know if you guys have ever seen this website. It's the one that I've gone to for the changes in shall carry to may issue and constitutional carry. It's Radical Gun Nuttery, and if anyone there's a slim chance that whoever runs the Radical Gun Nuttery website, if you could get the 2022 updated, that would be really cool. They it seems to take them about 3 or 4 months before they update a new map in a new year. So,
well, hopefully, maybe once they get that updated, Charlie, they can maybe add Michigan, Louisiana, Florida, Georgia, Nebraska, Pennsylvania, maybe even Indiana. I mean, they're all close if they can just push it over the finish line.
This is we need some sort of a graphic that's got like a horse track with all the states on it, like the horses are like they look like the state map. And they just kind of
we'll work on that for the next one. How's that?
Like
that sounds great.
Like the dot race in a football game, but little states, right?
Yes, exactly, exactly. We'll play some music or something, That'll be great.
I've been saying, Nebraska has been playing around with it for years. Flirting with, I like to call it, constitutional carry. For the last at least 3 years, they introduce it in the legislature, and it dies in committee, and it dies in committee, and it dies in committee. This year, I honestly think it's got a better than even chance, and they're working hard at it. I think this is Nebraska's year.
Let's hope so. Let's hope.
And we know Indiana's real close, too, so it's all keep our fingers crossed and keep calling our legislatures to make sure they understand, what the people want.
Yeah. Dana says you will still need a license to carry in non-constitutional carry states. It's a great point, Dana. And what we found in most states, when they pass constitutional carry, the license purchases go up because people want those licenses for going to other states.
Well, in Ohio, too, one thing nice with the licenses, it also allows us to go along and skip the background check. The NICS background check, because the concealed carry license already has a background check done on it, and we can walk into an FFL dealer, find the gun we like, show them our license, felt the same 4473, and then we're out the door, 5 or 10 minutes later, which definitely helps out a lot when you've got the NICS system down, delayed, overburdened, all those types of things we've heard in the last 4 to 5 years when it comes to gun purchases.
Absolutely, and if I could, I want to brag on my home state of South Dakota, if I could, please. Christy Nomas, I've not seen confirmation. She said she's going to sign it, but it's on her desk, so I'm going to take her at her word. She will sign it. There's a bill that passed both houses and is on her desk. If she hasn't signed it, she will. This year, all fees for South Dakota permits, including the enhanced permit, including the fingerprint fees, all that, goes to zero. So when I renew my permit, I'll have to pay nothing to get my constitutionally guaranteed rights.
That is amazing. I actually, this past week, I have someone that I talked to someone who was applying for their license to carry here in Massachusetts, and the police station was not fingerprinting people. So I'm like, look, I got fingerprint cards. I fingerprint people for the Utah class. Let's go. Come on.
Yeah. Rick on the YouTube side. I don't know why Facebook comments kind of died. I don't know why, but on the YouTube side, Rick says, oh, but in California, you have to have a background check for each and every ammo purchase. Okay. Yeah, then that's absolutely the case. It's just that with the price of ammo, what if you just want to go buy? Let's face it. The price of defensive ammo is such that you don't buy a 50-round box of defensive ammo. In some cases, you'll buy a box of 20 or less. And when you go to my ammo that I use is good for 1 year. I know it's good for a lot longer than that, but at 1 year, I go shoot my defensive ammo and replace it with brand new stuff. Yeah, I don't know. That's an awful lot of background checks if I lived in California. Thank goodness I don't.
And then keep in mind, if you get denied, and then the FBI's got to do an investigation on you. Think how much more workload we're putting on the law enforcement from the FBI perspective, and also on the NICS system that's already overburdened. I mean, it's one of those house of cards that eventually is just going to come crashing down. And that's where constitutional carry is our relief valve for that, because even when it does crash down, we can at least constitutionally carry.
All right.
The constant background checks is one of the things that makes me a complete mental patient. So here in Massachusetts, our local police, when we apply for our license to carry, they do a background check. They send it to the state police. The state police do a background check. They make the license. They send it to the local police. They call us. We go down and pick it up. Then when we go purchase something, we have to go through background checks for that as well. And I got into it with one of my anti-gun friends, and I said, hey, man, why, I've already passed a background check. I had passed 2 background checks to get a gun license. Why do I have to go back through another background check when I buy a gun? And he's like, well, what if you committed a crime? I'm like, dude, if I committed a crime, guess what they're going to do? They're going to take my gun license, and I'm not going to have a gun license. They're going to take all my guns away, and I'm not going to pass a background check anymore.
You know, you broke
right on top of it. Right.
All right.
Buying a gun be at least your worries at that point.
Well, we have burned through 30 minutes of a 15-minute news segment. So,
shocking.
Let's do that. We're gonna jump to break. When we come back, we're gonna do our DGU segment, and we're gonna close the show out all in one shot. First of all, we're gonna hear from the Complete Combatant. We'll be right back right after this.
This portion of the Polite Society podcast is brought to you by the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant is designed for a broad base of citizens that range from students that don't own a gun on up to advanced students that train often. The Complete Combatant offers several different courses that build upon each other, from avoidance, using verbal commands, and preparing for contact, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, your 911 call, interacting with the police, to even dealing with the legal system in the aftermath. The Complete Combatant courses are a layered approach for all levels of experience that will walk you through all the many stages of decisions while developing a game plan tailored to your skills and your everyday carry. Please visit www.thecompletecombatant.com and make sure you mention this ad to receive 15% off. Again, that's www.thecompletecombatant.com and mention the ad for 15% off.
Hey, and welcome back. This is going to be the final segment of the Polite Society podcast presented by the Second Amendment Foundation. This is our defensive gun use segment. These discussions are not legal advice. Some of us are trainers, but this is not formal training, and you need formal training. The defensive gun use segment is intended as information, not as training. As always, the opinions of the hosts are only their own opinions and not those of any sponsors or other affiliations. Since Susan's not here, I'll go ahead and I'll read the first one. It was 1 a.m. and the homeowner heard glass break downstairs. The intruder entered the home and started to make his way up the stairs. The homeowner saw the intruder and fired his firearm. He struck the would-be burglar in the neck. The injured criminal ran out of the house the same way he came in. He knocked on several nearby doors, letting the neighbors know he was shot. He was found a few houses away and pronounced dead. The other neighbors reported they'd seen him knocking on their houses prior to entering the house where he met the armed homeowner. A neighbor talked about thinking about his newborn son. He'd just seen the intruder through the door peephole. When he didn't open the door, his car was keyed, and the home invasion next door was in the offing. He does not have a weapon in his home. Good on a one-shot strike ends up being a lethal strike. Good on the homeowner, good marksmanship. Lesson for the guy that this guy was just not pounding on my door. I didn't let him in, and he goes and breaks into the house next door. Yeah, there's a hello for you, huh?
This is one of those stories, Paul, where you go along and it just sends shivers up your spine, because we've all had little kids, that infant that we bring home as parents and everything. We realize how much they depend 100% on us, and we understand there's only so much we can do. And that's where going along and having tools available to you, having a defensive plan for what you do in your house, where you're going to barricade if somebody comes in. All those things are really important. And if it comes to that point where you have to defend yourself from a lethal threat, know how to use a firearm properly, and what to do in the aftermath. It's one of those things that my spine was just tingling listening to that, because I could imagine I've got a couple young grandchildren. And when you think about that and what could have happened if he would have broken into the unarmed house and they would have had no option to it, there's no way of knowing what he would have done. But we see plenty of stuff in the news that would just give shivers up our spine, that if he would have done some of those things, it would have turned out really bad, really bad.
Oh, yeah.
I had two thoughts when I first heard this story. One, I wonder what the houses that he didn't break into, what kind of defense systems they had in place. Was it just that their doors were locked? Were they well lit? Did they have ring cams? These are things that you can do to fortify your home, because this house that he actually did break into, there was some kind of method of opportunity there. Maybe it was glass and he could just see the lock or whatever. But it does make us have to look at our houses a little closely and see what would make my house a harder target as someone's going up and down the street. And also wondering about, as Rob Morse would always point out, about the toxicology of this guy. It takes a long time for someone to stumble down the street and go house to house, knocking on doors and trying to get into houses. So it sounded like he wasn't all there, which even makes it even more scary what he could do if he was clearly not in his right mind.
Well, and somebody's been shot in the neck and they're bleeding. There's got to be. Let me put it this way: alcohol deadens pain, and so I'm wondering if there wasn't some of that there, so that John Correa puts it, fibs, fudge, I've been shot. Alcohol, I would deaden that as well. So, I don't know. There's multiple. What is the toxicology going to say on that? So, let's see the next one. Anybody want to take this next one?
Yeah, I'll take it. This is from Rocks, Paper, Singers. All right, this is from Woodbridge, Virginia. On a Saturday evening, a 27-year-old was in a car with her 5-year-old daughter in a commuter lot. She was being choked by the 42-year-old man in the car. The woman was able to extradite herself from the situation, and she and her daughter fled to a nearby car. In that car, a 57-year-old man and his 4 children, ages 16, 8, 5, and 15 months. Holy Tony Randalls. The man and his 16-year-old son got out to help the woman. The woman is a domestic abuse. The woman's domestic abuser circled his car around the parking lot and sped towards the man's car. He and his son and the victim. The man pulled out his firearm and fired several rounds towards the oncoming vehicle. The car was struck once. The suspect car slammed into the Good Samaritan's car with the 3 younger children, the 8-year-old boy, and 2 girls inside. The collision caused significant damage to the car. The woman and the 16-year-old son were also struck. The abuser sped away and exited onto Interstate 95. The first responders took the woman to the hospital with injuries to her leg. The 16-year-old was treated for minor injuries at the scene. The 57-year-old Good Samaritan and the 3 children were not hurt. After an extensive search, the police were waiting for him at his home, and the suspect was arrested. The 42-year-old man was charged with aggravated malicious wounding, 2 counts of attempted malicious wounding, 3 counts of felony hit and run, abduction, strangulation, and domestic assault and battery. He is being held without bond.
I'm surprised that a few of those charges are not attempted murder, because that is absolutely a lethal weapon that he was using in meeting his car to assault the other people.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. And it's one of these situations when you go along, and that domestic abuse victim, was she not carrying because she was waiting for a concealed carry permit to be approved in a May issue state? In a constitutional carry state, obviously, if she feels a threat, she can carry at that point. The other person, the 57-year-old, did he go along and spend his money instead of getting practice on the range? He spent more money getting his getting ammo to be able to go along and do the qualification test. Because in both situations, if she would have been armed, she could potentially defend herself before it got to the other. And at the same time, if the 57-year-old would have been maybe a little better shot and known a little bit how to do some defensive shooting, it may have been a completely different situation there, and he wouldn't have driven away, and the people would not have gotten hurt.
Absolutely.
Although, man, that guy, this Good Samaritan with his 4 children in the car, he was really putting himself out there to even assist her. So, yeah, ultimately we would want her trained to be able to be her own first responder, not have to rely on others.
Yeah.
Right.
Quite often I caution against interfering or getting involved in, not necessarily interfering, but getting involved in other people's issues. How do you know who the good guy is? How do you know who the bad guy is? Obviously, if a woman is running away and a guy is chasing after her in a car, you can pretty much tell who the good person is and the bad person is in that one.
Yeah, it's tough. I often say in classes that you don't know who the good guy is and who the bad guy is, and the woman that is being chased by the man, she could have just sold crack to that guy's kid's sister, and this woman needs a stern talking to. Like, maybe she's got it coming to her. Who knows? Who knows?
Is the guy chasing the girl an undercover cop?
Yeah, exactly. So, unless you are sure who the good guy is and who the bad guy is, it
might not be a good idea to get involved in a third person incident.
And Dana wants to know if somebody had died, would we see calls for car control? No, absolutely not, Dana, because remember up in Michigan several weeks ago, or actually probably almost a couple months ago now, we had this guy drive a Ford Escape through a parade and kill several people. And we're not seeing people call for the Ford Corporation to be sued. We're not seeing people call for the banning of the sale of those deadly Ford Escapes. We're just not seeing that. So
this sounds ridiculous. Was that Christmas of 2020 or 2021? I can't even remember.
21.
21. Yeah, it was
21,
just.
so it was only a few months ago.
Yes.
Wow.
Exactly.
Oof.
All right. Well, rather than doing break and coming back and doing a whole other segment, let's just do what we normally do at the end of the show. Charlie, let's talk about what's been released, what's coming up on Riding Shotgun with Charlie, man.
All right. Well, I was glad to that Frank was on tonight, because I interviewed Frank a couple of weeks ago in Philadelphia, and I put out the Riding Shotgun with Charlie with Frank last Tuesday. So if you want to see more of the interview and see some of the cool sites that we saw in Philly, please check that out. I am still just putting out shows on the 2nd and 4th Tuesdays, but there is a 5th Tuesday this month, so there might be a 3rd episode coming out or a 5th Tuesday episode, as I call it. So I need to find people that are wicked close to me that I can crank out a show and get to them within a few hours or so. I'm also excited to say that I am one of the contributors to the Armed Lifestyle magazine, which made its first issue debut yesterday, which is really cool. And I'm also going to be doing some weekly videos on AmmoLand News about some things that are going on. So that's what I've got coming up. I'm keeping myself pretty busy. Robin, how about yourself?
Unfortunately, I'm not writing anything or blogging anything right now because I'm busy training and being trained, spending my time out on the range, but always lots of good stuff going on. How about you, Rob?
I've got a lot of classes coming up in the next couple months that I will be giving, as well as a couple classes I'm going to be taking on OC spray, as well as one from Dave Spalding coming up. And I'm also going along and coming up with a new series of training classes, small training classes, seminars that we'll be doing in the evenings to go along and help address the constitutional carry and get people start thinking about what they need to know in order to exercise their constitutional rights for that.
All right, and on my end, I am just a whole lot more of the Bullet, whole lot more of Polite Society, and as I said at the beginning of the show, I'm upgrading equipment in the studio. More importantly, I'm upgrading equipment for the mobile studio, which is it was kind of a thing, and we got it moved into a little bit higher of a gear last year when we did AmCon. There was no gun rights policy conference in person last year or the year before, but I am about 90% of the way to getting the entire mobile broadcast studio into, say, 2 large suitcases instead of the back of a half-ton pickup truck, which is what it started as. So I just need a few more bits and pieces here and there, but that's all back of the scene stuff. What you're going to see for me is what you have seen, and I'm not going to be expanding into anything more. Just keep tuning in 5 p.m. Central Time daily for the Bullet, and on the weekends catch me at noon Central Time for the Weekend Bullet, which is 1 hour week in review. Oh, and I do want to mention, let me get this schedule up here, because we've got a kind of really cool weekend show coming up. Brooke Cheney is going to be, and Brooke was checking in earlier, Brooke Cheney and Rob Morse and Mike Piwowarski are going to be the 3 people on the Saturday show this week. And next week, Beth Alcazar, Dan Waz, and Tony Simon. So we got 2 really cool Saturday shows coming up over the next few weeks. So I think that's going to do it for us tonight. If I can find the right spot in show notes, because even though I've done it 616 times, I need to find the actual paragraph that says that wraps up another episode of the Second Amendment Foundation's Polite Society podcast. I'd like to thank Frank Tait for joining us today. So for Amy, Dana, Tracy, John, Susan, Amanda, Robin, Charlie, and Rob,
until next time, stay safe,
be aware,
and we'll see you down the road.
I was muted.
The views and opinions on the show you just heard are those of the host and the guest and are not necessarily the views of any sponsors or other affiliations. But hey, not everyone is as smart as we are.
All right, before I shut the streams down again, thank you everybody for watching. Thank you for everybody for communicating, for commenting, for being a part of the show. You are a big reason why we are so successful. And please, please, please hit the like button on your way out the door. We're going to shut it down now. We'll see you again next week.